Hey guys, OSG back with this week's comparison video, and today we'll be looking at the awesome Final Fight. Released by Capcom in 1989, this was the next best thing to Double Dragon for me. There were 3 players to choose from: Haggar, who was the mayor and the main part of the story, Cody, and everyone's favourite, Guy. This is a scroll and beat 'em up that I'm sure that most people will remember, and it also inspired the Streets of Rage series, and Axel is uncannily like Cody. Anyway, this was ported to 10 home systems, not including the CPS Changer, as that was just using the arcade board, or the Capcom Classic versions for PS2 and Xbox, as these were just emulation. I also haven't included the Wii Virtual Console, as that was just the Snes game. So, without more delay, let's take a look at Final Fight comparison, in order of greatness. Kicking us off in 10th place, we have the Commodore 64 version. As you know, I love the C64 and it really pains me to put this system last, but this game from US Gold is an abomination. The thing is though, all the 8-bits are rubbish, but at least the Spectrum and Amstrad version tried to make the game look like Final Fight with big detailed sprites. This version though, although not bad looking, doesn't look right and is totally unresponsive. Like even here I'm struggling and I'm hammering the fire button like mad, but it only seems to register a press every so often. Also, after the intro music there's no in-game music, which is a crime to not use the SID. All in all, it's a slog playing this, as the combat is totally crap. Ninth place is taken by the Spectrum version. So as you can see, this one actually looks more like Final Fight, but the looks is where it all ends. The game is so slow you may think you're looking through a flip book, and then the scrolling is so jittery it starts to grate on you after a few seconds. Like I say, the 8-bits were all rubbish, but this one gets above the C64 for one reason, and that's the Final Fight look, as everything else like the combat sound and lack of in-game music is just as bad. Surely when US Gold were making this, someone must have said, yeah, it looks good but it plays like a steaming pile of manure, let's try and fix it. Oh, sorry, I forgot it's US Gold we're talking about. That conversation will have ended in, who cares, package it up and ship it, kerching. Amstrad CPC is in 8th place. I actually spoke to Zypho last night when trying to work out just which of the 8-bit versions was shitter, and we came to the conclusion that the only way to determine that would be to go on looks, as everything else is equally as crap. So as you can see here, this version has the nice big sprites that we got from the Spectrum version but in full colour. I can imagine Amstrad owners salivating over the screenshots on the cover for this game, thinking surely they are the Amiga or ST, and then loading the game up and thinking wow, and then trying to move and thinking what the fuck. Yeah, this is one great looking game that fails in all other departments like the previous 2 versions, but this one just does crap that little bit better. In 7th place we have the Java ME version. Okay, so this is a mobile phone version, and although it's still not the best, it's more playable than the 8-bits. It has music and sound, and for an early mobile phone game it's great looking, but the controls on the phone must have been hard to get to grips with. On top of that, the levels are drastically shortened, which made marrying this up to the arcade footage a nightmare, but that can't be helped. I just think that the fact that this is above the 8-bits is a bit sad and shows how bad those versions were. Saying that, as a phone game I'd have been impressed to play this back in the day. Sixth place is taken by the Amiga. Now, a game where you're met with a great looking game that goes on to fail in the most important aspect of any game, the gameplay. The game looks class, but the frame rate is terrible. It also has no in-game music, which is a shame, as the intro music is great. And then there's the sound effects, all 3 of them. The thing is, Richard Appleton did this by himself in a tight timescale, and even openly admits that the looks of the game took precedence over the gameplay. And that brings us to the gameplay. This has to be up there with the 8-bits on how bad this game plays. It's so tedious and unresponsive, it just makes you want to switch it off. Richard gets a lot of stick over his game, but really, we all know it was down to the cheapskates at US Gold with the let's make it look good to sell copies attitude. Atari ST is in 5th place. Relax, this is the last of the really bad versions of this game. So again, like with the C64 being bottom, it pains me to put the Amiga's rival above it, but the simple fact is that this version has some in-game music which slightly tips the scale in its favour. The game, as with the Amiga, looks nice but plays like a dog still. Like I say, this is the last of the bad home versions, but if you had to play one out of the bottom 6, this for me is the best of a bad bunch, but that scrolling is abysmal and after a while started to hurt my eyes. I actually would never have played this far into any of these bottom 6 games if I didn't have to match it to the arcade gameplay. Fourth place is taken by the Super Nintendo. Okay, so this system actually has 2 versions, but I've just classed them as one for the reasons I'll say in a second. The first release of this game had a glaring omission, and that was Guy. Yeah, everyone's favourite character was left out for some strange reason, which was a bit of a numbnuts decision. Anyway, after an outcry, they corrected their mistake. Well, sort of. They replaced Cody with Guy. Yeah, still wrong, but at least we got Guy. Whilst this version is much better than the previous ones, due to hardware limitations, only 3 enemies could appear on the screen at one time. Also, some characters were renamed and even replaced in the European releases as they were deemed inappropriate. A level was also missing too, but the real kicker in this game is that neither of the versions had a 2-player option. In third place we have the Game Boy Advance. Now time and time again when this little system shows up in the comparisons, it totally blows me away of how good some of these games are. I remember playing this for the first time and it's like having an arcade in the palm of your hand. Obviously it's not the best scrolling beat 'em up on the Game Boy Advance, as that honour goes to Double Dragon Advance, but as far as handheld arcade ports go, they don't get much better than this. This version has all 3 players available, and 2-player mode is also an option with a link cable, but as with the Snes version, some of the characters have been renamed or replaced. It also got some extra features like hidden playable characters that can be unlocked. The Game Boy Advance really could knock out a decent beat 'em up. The Sharp X68K is in second position. So this is a system when you look at its catalogue you just know when it comes to arcade conversions it's gonna deliver. Okay, so we won't mention Chase HQ here. Anyway, it's what we've come to expect from a super expensive home system and we get an almost arcade perfect game here. It does have different music though and also falls foul of the Snes problem of having less enemies than the arcade on screen at one time. But other than that you can almost think you were playing the arcade in your home. Well, if you were Rockefeller and lived in Japan. And now, in first place we have the Mega CD, which was named Final Fight CD. This was the last of the true home conversions being released in 1993, some 4 years after the arcade game. We get a great game here with all the levels, playable characters and 2-player mode. Although the English version was censored still, it wasn't as aggressive as the Snes censorship and we still got Poisoned and Roxy, albeit with slightly less scantily clothing. But all this is like the arcade, again it falls short when it comes to on-screen enemies and also suffers from some slow down moments, although you don't really mind them as this version looks, sounds and plays so good. Okay, that's it for this week's comparison. Please let me know in the comments below what your memories of Final Fight were, and if you would like me to cover any other games in the comparison series, let me know and I'll add them to the ever increasing list. Please remember to drop this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more great retro content. And if you want to support my channel like these gems going up the screen right now, get on over to my Patreon channel and pledge for as little as $1. That will get your name in the end credits, video requests and more in the future. Till next time, this is OSG, signing out.